Marvel Rivals has finally released its Season 1 balance patch with tons of buffs and nerfs to many of your favorite tanks, DPS, and support. So we're going to break it all down in this video, showcase the examples, but make sure you smash that like, subscribe so you don't miss out on a lot of our guides coming in Season 1, and let's jump right in. Now, first up, Vanguards, and Captain America is going to be receiving a major buff. Steve will receive some enhanced survivability, allowing for more frequent entering and exit of combat, reduce the delay time for shield restoration after releasing Living Legend for 3 seconds to 2 seconds, reduce Liberty Dash cooldown from 12 seconds to 10 seconds, increase base health from 650 to 675, and reduce the energy cost for releasing Freedom Charge ultimate ability from 3400 to 3100, and reduce the additional health provided per second to self after releasing it from 101 to 100. Now, this is going to make Captain America less clunky, and his cooldowns are just going to be less overall with more base health. So he's going to be less clunky, more mobile, and is going to be much more survivable. This character undoubtedly needed a buff, but that being said, I think survivability was the one thing he had in spades, so good luck killing a Captain America from Season 1 onward. Next up is Doctor Strange, who is going to be receiving a nerf. They're reducing the threat range and increasing the defensive window of the Sorcerer Supreme. Add damage falloff to Maelstrom of Madness and Gamma Maelstrom, starting at 5 meters and reducing to 70% at 8 meters. Slightly decrease the shield's value recovery rate after releasing the ability from 80 per second to 70 per second. Now, these are going to be some seriously felt buffs. Specifically, the recovery rate on his shield is going to be something that over the course of a game, you're going to have your shield uptime be a lot less. But Doctor Strange was undoubtedly the best tank in the game, and I don't think that this would even knock him off that pedestal. Doctor Strange is still going to be very powerful, have a teleporter, have a powerful ultimate, and still trade damage on the front line very well. You're just gonna have to get used to the new shield recovery time and the fact that after 5 meters, your Maelstrom of Madness is gonna do dramatically less damage, so you need to keep that range in mind. Next up is Thor, and the God of Thunder could use some slight increased survivability and improve success rate to his ultimate ability. So his base health is gonna be now from 500 to 525. With either the seasonal buffs of 100, it's gonna make him 625, which is just 25 more health, and then it's going to get added immunity to control effects during God of Thunder ultimate, because as you know, any bump or anything would cancel his ultimate. I think this is a reasonable start, but I would have liked to see further buffs to that ultimate ability, but at least us Thor mains get something in this patch. And next up is Hulk, and Dr. Banner has been dominant, but some decreased sustained combat capabilities upon entering the battlefield will bring him in line with more other Vanguards. They reduce the Instructable Guard Gamma Shield value for Hulk Hero from 250 to 200. Now, this isn't a major change that is just going to make the character unplayable or anything like that, but it's definitely going to be felt by players that are playing Hulk at the highest level, although I still do believe that those Hulks will still consistently dominate at the highest ranks of play when they're not banned, of course. Last up in the tank category is Venom, and with increased survivability, the threat of his ultimate, the Symbiote Menace, will strike fear into the backlines of all enemy teams, increase the symbiotic resilience bonus health ratio gained per lost health point from 1 to 1.2, and also increase the base damage of Feast of the Abyss ultimate ability from 40 to 50. Now, if you thought Venom was tanky before, well, now he's gonna be incredibly tanky, and I think that having strong crowd control against Venom is gonna be really important for the vast majority of the low elo ranks when this guy jumps into your backline and just doesn't freaking die. That being said, for the one Venom player in top 500, you're eaten, and maybe there'll be some other Venoms to join you soon. Next up is Duelist, and we have Black Panther, and they're going to slightly decrease T'Challa's combat survivability, reduce the initial health provided to self after refreshing Vibranium marks with Spirit Rend from 40 to 30, and the upper limit of additional health provided from 120 to 75. Now, this is actually a crazy nerf to Black Panther. Not being able to gain nearly as much health and not being able to have nearly as much max health means that he's a lot easier to counter than he was before. I think this is going to be a particular nerf, though, to Black Panthers at the highest level of play. Black Panthers that were getting a lot of dash resets and really getting a ton of HP as they go in for their combos. These Panthers could really abuse the amount of HP they were getting and make it so that they literally couldn't die against a lot of characters and needed mass CC in order to shut them down. So while it is going to actually nerf high-ranked Black Panther players quite a bit, I don't really think it's going to have the same effect over the vast majority of Black Panther players in the lower ranks. Next up is Black Widow, and Natasha was very much in need of optimization when evaluating the release experience of her abilities, as well as a slight increase to the threat of her ultimate ability. Increase the range of the first effective Edge Dancer from a 3-meter radius to a 5-meter radius. Reduce the time required for Fleet Foot to recover 0 stamina to full from 12 seconds to 4 seconds, and reduce the time required for Electroplasma Explosion, her ultimate, to reach maximum power from 1 second to 0.5 1.6 seconds. The Edge Dancer kick ability being more ranged means she's going to be a little bit better from closer ranges, and that stamina going from 12 seconds to 4 means she's going to be actually hyper mobile. I actually like this direction for the character because I don't think they should have buffed her power, making her able to one-shot. We've talked about this ad nauseum, but specifically for the character in her current state, I think her mobility needs to be massively buffed, and it was, and that's a really big deal. Not to mention her ultimate was kind of clunky, and this is a nice change to that. Next up is Hawkeye, and we'll be decreasing the medium long-range damage capability, reducing the threatening combat radius, and slightly improving the close quarter combat resistance for this avenging archer. So they're going to slightly reduce the spread angle between every 2 blast arrows. I think these being closer together is a good thing because right now they're not that useful besides breaking terrain. And then they're going to be reducing the triggering distance of passive ability Archer Focus from 60 meters to 40 meters, reduce the maximum additional damage from the passive from 80 to 70. This means it's going to do less overall max damage, and it's actually going to make you be closer to targets in order to charge it up. Although this can kind of be offset by charging it on a tank and then shooting it on the back line, it's going to be a little bit harder to do, and it's not going to be as reliable. Hawkeye is also getting a reduction to his seasonal buff, so his overall damage will be down from 20% to 15%. So overall, I do think this is a pretty big net negative to Hawkeye, but he's still going to be a viable and powerful character when the dust settles. Next up is Hela. The god of death has been a menace, and we're slightly decreasing her combat strength, reduced base health from 275 to 250. Hela will also be receiving a reduction to her seasonal bonus, down 20% to 15% damage. This means that she cannot headshot, body shot characters anymore, and even triple body shot doesn't kill. And her both doing less damage and being less survivable is going to be a nice mark against probably the strongest DPS in the game in Season 0. Next up is Magik. The Queen of Limbo needed to increase her threat after unleashing her ultimate ability, increased Umbral Incursion damage in Dark Child form from 115 to 135. Now, I'm not going to lie to you, I was scared of this shit enough already, and now I'm going to be super scared of it. This is going to freaking kill. Like, it's going to murder you. Run the hell away or hit her with multiple sources of CC because otherwise she's going to wipe your damn team. Next up is Moon Knight. The Hand of Khonshu will receive a slight increase to the threat of his ultimate ability, increase the number of talents generated by Hand of Khonshu from 10 to 14, and increase the explosive radius for each talent from 4 meters to 5 meters. This ultimate became a lot easier to hit a huge group of people with. It's going to do a lot more damage. It's going to kill people a lot quicker, and I think Moon Knight ultimate is one of the fastest generating reasonably in the DPS category. So yeah, you're going to be able to really turn a lot of fights with this, and it's less of a cosmetic ult now and more of a serious team fight winning ult. So yeah, the moon haunts us all in Season 1. Next up is Namor, and they're optimizing the throw feel of Namor's egg, so adjusting the throwing feel of both the frozen spawn and the normal spawn. Now Namor can more accurately throw them to the desired location. It's going to be a nice quality of life change that is going to feel a little bit like a buff. Next up is Psylocke, and they'll be providing more options for other heroes to counter the Demon Slayer's ultimate. So now Dance of the Butterfly, her ult, will check for barriers including Magneto's metal bulwark, Hulk's indestructible guard, and more. So there are ways to add in more additional bodies into the ultimate to make it so that she has other things that she's going to target and she won't be as lethal. This is a huge nerf to this ultimate that was basically a checkmate ultimate, where once the enemy team didn't have defensive ultimates, you could go in and almost guarantee get 1 or 2 kills, and now that's just not going to be the case anymore. There's a lot more things you need to track. Psylocke is still going to be very powerful, but this ultimate definitely has taken a hit. Next up is the Punisher, and they're slightly increasing the damage capability of Frank's weapons. This is both with his primary fire and his shotgun. Now this is going to make Punisher just that much more lethal with both his shotgun and his primary, and for aimers you're really going to be able to push that little bit a lot further. So yeah, I do expect Punisher mains, especially with rockets to help them out, are going to be feasting this season. Next up is Scarlet Witch, and they're increasing Wanda's combat strength when she's facing duelists or strategists, increase the control chaos fixed damage from 50 per second to 60 per second, reduce the percentage damage per second from 5% to 3%, but increasing the burst projectile damage from 30 to 35. So basically, it's not going to be doing as much percentage to overall health, so it's not going to be as effective against tanks, but against squishies, so duelists and strategists like they said, it's going to be a lot more lethal, and that's going to be something a little bit scary when up against Scarlet Witches. They're going to give you less time to hit them in the freaking head or hit them with an ability before they just murder you. The next hero is Storm, and the Weather Witch needed an overall increase to her damage capability. They're also optimizing the feel of her left click projectile with the release experience of her ultimate ability. ability. Increased wind blade projectile speed from 100 meters per second to 150 meters per second, and left click damage from 50 to 55. Increase her bolt rush damage from 70 to 80. So this is just flat out gonna make her more effective at outputting a lot more damage, and it's gonna be a lot easier to hit. These are some major buffs. And then after releasing Omega Hurricane, her ultimate, the bonus health provided for herself would be increased from 350 to 450. Moreover, following its conclusion, the extra health will no longer vanish instantly, but will instead diminish at a rate of 100 per second. This means she's going to be less vulnerable in the moments after her ultimate and still have a little bit of HP to keep her alive. Now, overall, these are some pretty massive changes to one of the arguably worst DPS in Season 0 of Marvel Rivals, so we'll have to see exactly where she is after it's all said and done, but she's undoubtedly way stronger than she was before. Next up is Squirrel Girl, and they're increasing the threat of Doreen and her furry friends in their ultimate. Addition of a new effect of the ultimate ability, the squirrels will rush towards the nearest enemy after bouncing instead of bouncing randomly, and they're going to reduce the squirrel tsunami's health from 600 to 300. So the ultimate is going to be more destroyable, yes, but it's also going to be way better because it's not going to just miss everybody. It's actually going to go towards people. I think that Squirrel Girl's biggest weakness was that her ultimate was very inconsistent. She could generate a million of them, but it didn't matter when they just hit a ledge and just bounced, off into nowhere. But now it's actually going to go at people. Yes, they could destroy it, but 300 is still a lot to react to an ultimate when compounded with all the pressure Squirrel Girl adds. I think this is a really great change for the character overall, and is going to make her a lot better. Now, Winter Soldier. We'll be adjusting Bucky by decreasing his long-range combat strength and increasing his survivability in medium close-range combat. So they're going to increase the bonus health provided by Bionic Hook and Tainted Voltage from 30 to 40, and they're going to increase Ross Stern's projectile damage from 70 to 75. It's also going to reduce the area damage from 70 to 65 and reduce the damage decay from 65% at 40 meters to just a flat 60%. That being said, his base health is going to be increased from 250 to 275. Now, not gonna lie, as a Winter Soldier main, the decrease in damage to his primary is something that I don't really like all that much, but I get what they're doing with the character, and they're doing it in the form of his health increase to his base health and the health he gets from his abilities. This character is a bodyguard. This character is a protector. This character is an anti-flanker, and you could say that he could do all that stuff before, but really, he did that with his lethality, not as much his HP, because you would just get dove and killed in a lot of matchups, and now that's going to be much harder to do. Like his matchups against a character like Magik, for example, is going to be a lot more in his favor now. Even though he does less damage, it wasn't about that. It was about his survivability, and now he has that a lot more. So I actually think that this overall is a massive buff to the character. Even if one part of his kit is weaker, it was the part of his kit that didn't play to what I think the character's identity and strengths can be and could be. So yeah, I think Winter Soldier is going to be a serious contender this season. Last up in the DPS category, we have Wolverine, and Logan will receive an increase to base combat strength, but a slight decrease to the additional survivability after activating Undying Animal. So they're going to increase his base health from 300 to 350, but they're going to reduce the damage reduction ratio provided by Undying Animal from 50% to 40%. Now, this is wild. Like, this is a huge buff to Wolverine, and Wolverine was already shown to be one of the most powerful characters in Season 0, especially in the higher elos of play, because he could just farm tanks. I understand that myself and almost everyone got this wrong, but we came to find out how powerful this character is, and I understand that Undying Animal is getting nerfed, but Wolverine getting 50 extra health is just completely wild. Wolverine is definitely going to be a freaking menace in Season 1, so look out. Next up is Strategists, and Cloak and Dagger, Ty and Tandy will receive an increase to their healing capabilities as well as an expansion to the coverage area of their ultimate ability. So reduce Storm and Dagger cooldown from 15 to 12 seconds. That's a big deal. And then increase the number of dashes in Internal Bond ultimate from 3 to 4. That's a huge buff to the ultimate. So yeah, Cloak overall is just going to be that much better. A character that was already fairly strong is getting some nice buffs. Now, Jeff the Landshark will be adjusting the range for his ultimate ability, so it's now better fitting with warning markers. In addition, we'll also be increasing his healing capability. His ultimate range forms a 10-meter sphere to a 10-meter radius, 5-meter high cylindrical cylindrical field. So it's going to be really clear exactly when you're going to get eaten and when you're not. And then increase the healing of Joyful Splash from 140 per second to 150 per second. This guy can heal a freaking lot, but overall I do think this is gonna be just nice changes to the character, making it easier for you to counter him and giving him something to kind of offset that. Next we have Luna Snow, and while we enjoyed her dropping the base, we've made adjustments to Luna's ultimate ability to prevent players from abusing its healing capabilities. Increase the interval from switching between healing and damage in Fate of Both Worlds from 0.1 second to 0.5. As you know, people have been ulting with Luna Snow and just spamming it like non-stop, getting both effects, and yeah, that just seems kind of silly and it looked kind of wild, so it makes sense for them to do this. Next up though is Mantis, and we've been making Mantis a bit less fleet-footed, reducing her roaming support capability, reduced Nature's Favor, her movement passive, from 2.5 meters a second to 1.5 meters a second. Now this is gonna nerf my favorite playstyle on Mantis, which is running around and killing things, but really any movement nerf is gonna be a felt one and is a big deal. Mantis is still gonna be most likely the strongest support in the game, but I think that movement was something that a lot of people really liked and enjoyed, so we'll have to see how people are receptive to this. I don't entirely like nerfing her movement. I would much rather actually see a nerf in her health down to 250 before I see a nerf in her movement, but let me know down below if you like or dislike this change. The last step for non-team up ability changes, Rocket could use an enhancement to his healing capabilities, so now his healing repair mode goes from 60 per to 70 per. A lot of people have been asking for this, as Rocket couldn't output as much healing as a lot of other characters, and while I do think that he probably could use some changes to his damage as well, I think this is a nice change overall. Now, team up abilities have been shaping the meta for a while, so they did some core changes to these as well. So Hawkeye Black Widow, to further tone down Hawkeye's oppression, they're reducing the seasonal buff, reduce Hawkeye's bonus from 20% to 15%, so he's going to do less damage overall. This is an addition to the thing he already got previously that we talked about. Hela, Thor, Loki, much like Hawkeye, Hela's overwhelming power will be receiving a slight reduction, reduce Hela's seasonal buff from 20% to 15%. Luna Snow, Namor, they're going to increase the threat of frozen spawn, so increase frozen spawn damage from 25 to 27, increase frozen spawn slowing effect applied to hit enemies from 25% to 30%, and increase berserk state from frozen spawn damage from 16 to 18. Yeah, Namor Luna has already been one of the strongest combos in the high elos of play. This just supercharged it, so yeah, Luna, I'm sorry, y'all are getting banned a lot. Rocket, Raccoon, Punisher, Winter Soldier, one of Rocket's best tools, will be available more often now, so they reduced the cooldown of ammo invention from 45 seconds to 40 seconds. You combine this with the addition of the Punisher buff, the Raccoon buff, the Winter Soldier buff. Yeah, this Trinergy or Rocket Raccoon with one of these other two characters is gonna be very strong in the next season as well, so a lot of really powerful things coming around the corner. For Scarlet Witch Magneto, a bit underwhelming. The damage capability of this father-daughter team-up ability will be enhanced. Increase metallic fusion projectile damage from 55 to 60, and increase metallic fusion spell field damage from 30 to 35. Now, you combine this with the fact that Doctor Strange got a little bit of a nerf, Hulk got a little bit of a nerf, and Scarlet Witch got a pretty massive buff. All of a sudden, we might see this duo quite a bit, and it's pretty sick that this synergy has been buffed by this margin. The last up is Thor, Storm, Captain America. We'll be enhancing the damage capability of Storm's side of this team-up ability, reduce the cooldown of Charge Scale from 20 seconds to 15, and increase the damage of Charge Scale from 50 to 55. So we got Thor buffs, we got Storm buffs, we got Cap buffs, and we got the synergy buff. Let's freaking go. It's time to run it down as these three. Now, there are a lot of changes in this patch, and I overall am pretty impressed with the patch. I think it's going to be interesting how it all plays out, but there are still some outliers that I think are crazy and some really powerful things that might be a bit too powerful, but we'll have to see how it all plays out. But I'm really excited for season 1. I hope you are as well. Let me know down below what change you like the least and the most, and definitely smash that like and subscribe so you don't miss out on any of our content coming soon. Thank you so much for coming by. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.